So today, you guys knew it was coming when you saw the video that came out on Abby's channel. We are going to be talking about Abby Sharp. She actually made a video where she kind of reacts. So this is, hey, you guys know you love it. It's me reacting to her reacting to me and other people. It's good time, you know. This is peak content right here. So it is the title of this video, Dietitian Reacts to YouTuber Weight Loss Videos, Sorting Through the Lies. Ooh, that sounds kind of dangerous. And just so you guys know, the person who left the top comment on this video is freaking so funny. Like, they're hilarious. Look at it right here. Honestly, I don't ever remember being that tan. Oh, great video, by the way. You guys, I commented on this video literally probably a minute after it was uploaded because I got eagle eyes out there, okay? I got people letting me know what's going on. But basically, in this video, she goes over different YouTubers and what they what she thinks about their advice. So just a spoiler for you guys. So she goes over me. She goes over Jordan Shrinks, Jordan Syed, Frumpy Fit, and also Greg Doucette, all in one video. It's quite a long one. So let's go into it. I would speed it up, but she actually speaks pretty quick, so I don't want to do that. And I know some people like to speed me up as they're watching, and so it's a little bit too much. So let's get into it. I'm gonna stop talking. Let's go.
Finally talk about losing weight. Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. Today's video is sponsored by Built Bar.
All right, we love that Abby is getting her bag, and honestly, I've done videos sponsored by Built Bar, and I'm sure I'll do more, but we're going to skip through this, okay? All right.
For me, that means honoring all health and aesthetic goals, including those that include weight loss. It's really not up to me to decide whether or not that is a good or bad goal, or whether you will succeed or fail.
So I know that might sound like it's like, well, whatever, or like that's dumb. Why do you even have to say that? But I genuinely do think that shows, and I've brought this up before, but that shows there is something changing, right? Like there genuinely is, like, that's a really interesting thing that she put in there, right? She basically is saying, like, I think that it's fine if people want to lose weight. If that's a goal that they have, that's totally fine. Which sounds a lot like, I don't know, someone that you guys might know, you know?
So I want to clarify that I am not Hayes, and I'm also not strict pro weight loss. I'm all about living in the gray, and I'm willing to help people meet their goals the healthiest, most sustainable way possible. Now, as you have...
So that's freaking important right there, man. I'm going to try not to pause this too much, but she says it herself. She is not Hayes. Like, she makes that distinction. That's important. But then also she's not like overly weight loss, which I feel like most people aren't like, you have to lose weight. No one's like, I'm a weight loss person. It's like, well, we care about health here, right?
You've seen on my channel, I am a big proponent of intuitive eating. And intuitive eating, as it was originally conceptualized by its authors in its entirety, with the 10 guiding principles that we talk about, is an amazing, freeing place to get to. But I don't think that it's realistic for everyone to achieve complete food freedom. And I also think that we can gain a lot from even incorporating one or two or more of the principles into our lives. Having said that,
I mean, dude, I love that she brings that up, because again, that's what I agree with. Like, a lot of people will make it seem like you should just do intuitive eating, and I'm like, dude, it is so difficult to get to that point, especially if you're at a point where, you know, where like I was at with food was so not intuitive. It was like the opposite of that, right? And so, the fact that these things are acknowledged is such a huge step forward from the content I've seen. And I'm not trying to do like a content cop on her. Like, whatever. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I think that it's good, is what I'm trying to say.
while intuitive eating is not a diet and does not explicitly prescribe weight loss advice, I also don't think that there's anything wrong with the desire to lose weight. In fact, diet culture is so pervasive in our aesthetic-driven, Instagrammable world that I think it's really hard not to have those desires. Obviously, in an ideal world, those with weight loss goals should be working with a registered dietitian to find a sustainable and healthy diet pattern that works for them. But I get that accessing that support isn't always so easy, hence the popularity of weight loss YouTubers and influencers.
It's me! Look at, Oh my goodness, I'm famous.
But if you've watched any of my review videos, you know that there is a ton of misinformation out there. A lot of which can be really dangerous in the wrong hands. Now, I also want to preface this by saying that if you're trying to lose weight following any of the advice you find online and it's not working, you are not broken. You are not doing it wrong. Nothing about weight loss is simple or straightforward because our bodies are actually designed to fight it and will do so to variable degrees between people or at different stages in your life. So what worked in your 20s probably won't work so well in your 40s.
And also, this is important, and this is something I've been learning more and more about, is that there are a lot more things that go into losing weight and your weight as a woman than they do as a dude. Like, so a lot of times I think women will see advice that is coming from a guy, and these are things that I struggled with, and like these are mistakes I made when I was first trying to make videos to help people lose weight. I didn't even think about the differences. I just didn't even think about it. So that's also one thing that I think is important, is like to understand if you are a woman, like you have like with your period and with your menstrual cycle, all of that stuff will affect your weight. It 100% will.
But that doesn't mean that long-term weight loss is impossible. The key to me is that it must be a way of living that you can sustain and ultimately enjoy for life. Not a cleanse, not a detox, not an over-the-top restrictive set of rules. We have got to bring it back to basics, as unsexy as that is.
Amen.
Also, before we start,
and a woman,
check out the disclaimers on the screen, including an obvious huge trigger warning. This is not, and I repeat, not a video for those struggling with disordered eating. Remember, we cannot directly control how our body loses weight. We can only control our behaviors. Now, I also want to add that I don't necessarily agree with everything that these influencers suggest on their entire channel when it comes to weight loss or health advice. And I also don't always agree with their delivery or tone or communication style. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring that little bell so that you never miss out on a future video. All right, folks, let's kick this video off with a familiar face here on Abby's Kitchen, John from Obese to Beast. So John's
first, she saved the first for best. That's how we're gonna go about this.
Message is largely rooted in moderation as opposed to complete deprivation, with an emphasis put on improving health. So let's take a look at one of his suggestions.
The first tip I actually have is to eat.
Man, look how tan I am, bro. When? Like, I'm kind of jealous. I look like a baby, though. There's no facial hair. I don't know, man. I like the facial hair. Whew. Okay, I'm sorry. I won't
eat more calories. And I know that might sound like, well, I'm trying to lose weight. Why do I eat more calories? Something I noticed is that a lot of people, they are cutting their calories way too drastically. If you're a 300-pound person and you're eating 1,000 calories, yes, you are going to be losing weight, but obviously you're going to be very hungry because you can be eating a lot more calories.
I 100% agree. Not only are major caloric deficits subject to cause metabolic adaptation, which I discussed in my video right here, but also risks you falling into an overeating episode or an actual binge. It's actually really easy to undo a caloric deficit from one epic cheat meal a week, so that's something to keep in mind if you keep finding yourself restricting so aggressively that you can't help but overeat. Now, John also talks about eating enough fat, protein, and fiber every meal, which frequent viewers of my channel may recognize as the hunger-crushing combination. So I appreciate this advice, not only because each of these compounds help to increase the satiety factor of food, but also because John is focusing on what we can add to our diet rather than always thinking about what we need to just take away.
So I know I'm not saying much, but I feel weird kind of like patting myself on the back while she's also being like, yes, I agree. I'm like, yeah, obviously I agree too, because I was the one that was saying it. So again, like all of that stuff, obviously I agree with. That video wasn't that old. It was like maybe a year and a half old. But I think that that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and that's why I'm so against people like when you're over restricting. Like, yes, you will lose weight, but the goal shouldn't be just weight loss, right? The goal should be like losing like it should be health, right? At the end of the day, health should be the main focus, right? At least I think so. So overly restricting, while weight loss will happen, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're like, holy smokes, I'm freaking hungry, and you overeat, and then you feel like you're not even losing weight anymore, and then it's yeah.
And I find that this little shift in mentality can really help keep us out of that scarcity mentality, which is a really typical predictor of a binge. Now, while I typically don't agree with complete avoidance of any kind of food, I do think that there is some merit to John's next piece of advice around drinking your calories. Let's take a look.
Is to stop drinking your calories. Now this goes obviously for sodas and sugary juices and smoothies. All of that stuff is adding calories that are not going to make you feel full.
Okay, so I don't think that we need to never have a drink with calories if you enjoy a glass of wine or a smoothie or fresh juice, but there definitely is some value from an evidence-based gentle nutrition standpoint to his suggestions. Obviously, we know that soda pop isn't a nutrient-dense choice, but even when we think about something like fruit juice, which does contain a lot of micronutrients, it would be a lot more satiating and probably also more emotionally satisfying to eat like 4 whole oranges rather than drink a glass of OJ. Same with a smoothie, which while more satiating than juice because you're getting more fiber intact, may not be the equivalent experience of eating a banana and peanut butter and yogurt and milk and spinach in a bowl. In fact, one study comparing the satiety effects of consuming fruit smoothies versus their fresh fruit equivalents found that a fruit salad was substantially more filling than its equivalent drink. So if you're trying to focus on the satiety factor of the foods that you choose, go for foods that you chew. Now,
So, first off, whenever I hear someone say fruit salad, I always think fruit salad, yummy, yummy, yummy. That's how my mind works. So basically what I was saying there, and again, I agree with what she's saying here, because I'm not saying you can never have liquid calories. Like when I drink coffee, I usually have creamer in it. I'm not like, it's not like I never drink liquid calories, but where I'm coming from is like people that are massively overweight that are trying to lose a lot of weight, right? For the most part, usually liquid calories are a big factor in, being 100, 200 pounds overweight, right? Usually those things are a factor. So just cutting them out at the start, eventually maybe adding them back, I think it's just a good way to become cognizant of, holy smokes, I did not realize how many calories were in the things that I was drinking. And then when I say smoothies, the reason I say that is because when I say smoothies, I'm thinking about like freaking going to Jamba Juice and thinking, oh, this is healthy. Where if you've been in the live streams before, we have compared like Jamba Juice versus getting a Frappuccino. And sometimes the Jamba Juice has more sugar and more calories than the Frappuccino does that you would assume would be worse. So that's why I bring up smoothies, because a lot of people think this is the healthy option, when in reality, there's tons of calories. And after they finish it, they're not even really that full. So that's why I'm like, it probably is a good idea to avoid those, because it might not make you feel full. If it works for you, of course, I'm not going to say you can never do that. But that's what I mean when I say like avoiding smoothies and stuff like that.
now, finally, another one of my favorite pieces of advice from John is to slow down your eating pace. Let's take a look.
But make sure that you are not completely wolfing your food down in about 30 seconds. Try and make sure that you're chewing every single bite and enjoying the food that you're having, because if you're eating it in 10 seconds, you're like, I'm still hungry, and then you can continue eating.
So this is great advice for everyone, not just for those looking to lose weight, since it also helps with aiding in digestion.
Okay, so my chat is calling me out right now. I think in that video, I say like, this is something I need to work on as well, because your boy eats so fast. I eat so fast. And yes, if I were to slow down, it would probably be helpful. But again, listen to what I say, not to what I do, all right? You can listen to my advice and understand that your boy eats fast still, okay? But stop bullying me, okay? My gosh. I knew that was going to come up. I knew it.
And as a busy mama, I myself really need to take note. But we do know that it takes about 20 minutes for our stomach to communicate satiety to our brain. And most of us today eat so fast that we never really acknowledge those cues until it's too late. So slowing down is a great way to encourage ourselves to check in regularly before we find ourselves overeating. Now, I also can say that I really appreciate John's personal laid-back approach to food. We often see him eating typically demonized foods like white bread, but he also doesn't cut out full food groups, and he eats the foods that he enjoys that fit generally within what he has already established as his caloric and macro needs. And while he's mindful of his caloric intake, he has also said often that he will eat more on days if he does feel hungry. So all of these level-headed tactics to maintain his significant weight loss get a big yes from me.
So, one, that was a very cute little sound. But the reason that this stuff is so important to me, and the reason why I get so, you could call me triggered, whatever, I get so triggered about people that will promote these extreme diets, because yes, they will work. 1,000% you will lose weight on whatever extreme diet, whatever one you want to put in there, right? It doesn't matter. It will get you to lose weight if you're in a caloric deficit. The reason I'm not a fan of them is because after you're done doing that diet, and that's the problem, you shouldn't ever be done, but after you're done doing that diet, what do you do after that? A lot of people end up gaining the weight back. That's the biggest thing, right? That's why I'm against them. And that's why I share myself eating garbage food all the time, like microwave meals, is because I want people to understand, like, while I probably shouldn't be eating microwave meals all the time, you can eat them and still make progress. That's the reason I do it, right? And, I mean, it's just genuinely how I eat, but that's the reason I actually share it with people. A lot of people might feel like embarrassed. I don't care, man. I want to show people, yo, this is what works for me, so people can understand, oh, I could eat like that and still make progress. I don't have to eat perfectly all the time.
Okay, so moving on, let's talk about some suggestions from weight loss YouTuber Jordan Shrinks.
Oh, Jordan. I love Jordan.
Now, in her video, Top 5 Best Foods for Weight Loss and Healthy Food Swaps, Jordan talks about a variety of her favorite high-volume, nutrient-dense foods like fruits, veggies, popcorn, potatoes, and oatmeal, all of which help provide satiety for fewer calories. Now, while I think this volume eating advice can be taken to an extreme and become super problematic, as we have seen in some of my reviews, like Dr. Dre, for example.
When she first brought that up, because I saw this video already, I was like, Dr. Dre? I wasn't watching, I was listening. And I was like, wait, why is Dr. Dre giving out nutrition advice? I'm so confused. But it's a different Dr. Dre.
When I look at Jordan's What I Eat in a Days, it suggests that she's eating normal portions of these high volume foods and then balancing them with lots of healthy fats and protein. I also see that Jordan incorporates a lot of non-low-cal foods like peanut butter toast, chickpea pasta, chicken skewers, and protein bars, suggesting that you still need calories and substance in your diet to complement some of those higher volume, lower calorie fruits and veg. I mean, one just cannot subsist on lettuce alone. So I think it can be triggering.
Freely has entered the chat.
For some people to be told, hey, fill your belly with all these low-calorie foods. At its core, we're really just talking about eating more fiber-rich, water-rich foods, and generally that means fruits and veggies. That is kind of as Nutrition 101 as it gets. So I do agree with that. While research in the area of volumetrics is somewhat consistent, most of the data to date has found that when calories are equal, people report greater satiety following a more voluminous meal or snack. So
what that means there, for those of you guys that might not know, so what she's saying, when calories are equated, so when the calories are the same, so say it's 2,000 calories, eating a meal that has more volume, so there's more things for you to chew, more things for you to like eat, that will keep you fuller than something that's going to be very low volume and it doesn't take you very long to eat. That's basically what that means. Okay, for those of you guys that might not know.
For example, comparing 100 calories worth of strawberries to 100 calories worth of chocolate chips, the strawberries are probably going to be more satiating. Jordan also talks about finding ways to make the foods you love, but in more nutritious ways. So Let's take a look.
It's so much better when you're losing weight to learn how to make the foods you love in a healthier way. Like,
Jordan has the coolest style. I always see her in videos and stuff, and I'm like, man, I wish I had a unique style like that, but I just don't. Oh well.
like you're just gonna do yourself such a service if you take the time to figure out how to make things you love in a healthier way, because that means you don't have to give up the things you like. That means you're not gonna feel deprived, but you're still gonna be reaching your health goals. So
I agree. I mean, I think that food skills are highly underrated in our society. But research does suggest that weight loss intervention programs that include home cooking do improve weight loss outcomes as well as overall diet quality. Now, I also checked out her video on the 5 common weight loss myths, and we see a few of the same themes that we already discussed with John. So, she talks about making sure that you're eating enough, avoiding things like crash diets, and not taking exercise to an extreme. And then she also busts some common myths that I often discuss on my channel here. So let's take a look.
and that is that carbs make you gain weight. So one of the main reasons why people assume or think that carbs make you gain weight is one, they've been told that by the diet industry, so I don't blame anyone. But 2 is after consuming carbs, you are likely to see an increase on the scale. What's important to remember about this is that that increase on the scale is not an increase in fat, it's an increase of water.
Yes to diet culture and yes to water weight. Carbs should not be feared. Also,
Yeah, I mean, obviously I agree because I eat, 3/4 of a baguette for lunch sometimes, but it's all good.
this one.
You do not have to drink juice for a week before you can start losing weight.
Yep. If you are an avid watcher of Abby's Kitchen, you've heard that one a lot.
The only thing Abby hates more than diet culture is juice cleanses. I'm telling you right now. She don't play about that at all.
So it is nice to feel echoed by another YouTuber in this space. Your body is a natural cleansing machine. Yeah, you might lose some weight on a 3-day juice fast, but that's going to be all water weight and potentially muscle if it goes on long enough. So you're going to gain all of that back when you start to actually eat again. So in conclusion, while not a professional, Jordan's moderate, simplistic, and realistic approach to weight loss is something to be admired in this insane YouTube space. And her own significant weight loss success is a testament to that.
So the one thing, I mean, I agree with everything. That's why I wasn't interrupting her too much, because I agree with everything that she was saying. But the one thing that I wish she would have brought up, which I think is so interesting, and it's such an awesome testament to Jordan and her being able to go through one thing and then make changes and fix it, right? Fix it kind of is loosely used. But Jordan at one point used to make videos about the potato diet, where she was literally only eating potatoes, and she would make videos kind of like promoting this thing that now, when she looks back on it, she's like, man, that's like not something that I would ever want to promote anymore, right? And so she was able to see this thing that, because like she genuinely believed that she was really trying to help people, right? Like she wasn't paid off by this potato diet or anything like that, but like it was something that she did that got her to lose weight relatively quickly. And then she was like, okay, I'm gonna make videos on this and show other people what to do. And the fact that she's able to look back on that, and she's been able to change her mind and then inform the people that watch her of better ways to do things, I think is just a testament to, people make mistakes, or people, when you're starting nutrition and stuff, you think you know what you're doing, and then eventually over time you make better decisions and you learn. And she was able to do that. I was kind of hoping she would bring it up. I don't know how much, I mean, that's far back stuff. Like, I've known Jordan for a very long time, and I remember when this stuff was going on, but I think that that's really cool. So I just wanted to bring that up because I think that is a really cool development with her.
All right, moving on to another common request, I wanted to chat about Lena from Frumpy Fit. So in her video, Should You Avoid Certain Foods to Lose Weight?, she talks about her all foods fit philosophy to dieting, where no specific foods are off limits, because to her, nutrition should be all about moderation, not restriction. Yes. Girl, Lena, music to my ear. She also talks about how completely eliminating certain bad foods you love often backfires and can just cause you to overeat. Yep, She's definitely right about that. You know, I will say it all the time, but absolute restriction is generally a pretty good setup for a binge. Now, Lena's approach to weight loss is based on mindfulness strategies and activities to help release.
Okay, so I'm just kind of being nitpicky, but whatever. The one thing I want to say here is that, like, I feel like a lot of these tips are good for people that maybe aren't trying to lose much, or that might not have like genuine like food addictions and stuff. Because I know for me, like, I genuinely had to cut out soda. Like, there was no, oh, I'll just have a Coke with dinner, just one. I had to cut that out. And like, that really helped me. And that was something that really helped me. I'm not saying that you have to do it with everything, but there might be certain things that you might feel like, okay, I need to cut these things out. And just not have them for a while, for a season, for a little bit of time, because I can't control myself around them, right? So I think it's important to bring up. I don't necessarily even disagree with what is being said here, but I just want the people that might feel like they should cut things out, or there are some things that they should cut out, to feel validated in that thought and not feel like because they're doing that, they're entrenched in diet culture and therefore they are going to trigger a binge, right? I don't think that's necessarily the case every single time.
Foods from what she calls our food biases. Let's take a look.
Reevaluate your food biases. A huge reason that people tend to overeat certain foods is that it's a result of restriction. And the reason we restrict certain foods is because we label them as bad, like we're not supposed to be eating them. They're forbidden. And then by making them off limits, it makes us want them more, and then we end up binging. You've probably experienced it in your own life and your own diet, and as a fitness professional, I see this happen all the time. Massive restriction leads to binging almost always.
Yep. You know, I always talk about how dichotomizing food as good or bad, or painting foods with a moral lens, often sets us up to obsess and overeat the alleged junk. I mean, I know that all foods are obviously not nutritionally equal, but if we make them morally equal, we're much more likely to be able to eat in response to physical rather than just our emotional needs. Now, in her video, The Best Diet for Weight Loss in 2000.
Okay, so here, I don't necessarily like disagree with anything that's being said again. I do think that, you know, not putting a moral thing on foods, like being like cheeseburgers are bad. And if I eat, it's mainly, I think, how it makes you feel about yourself, right? So if you put these morals on food, if you take the quote unquote bad cheeseburger and you put it in your mouth and eat it, then you are now taking the bad of the cheeseburger and now you're bad, right? Oh, I'm bad because I ate the bad cheeseburger. That's where I think the problem lies. Where if you're able to be like, this food is not good in the sense of if I'm trying to lose weight or if I'm trying to be my healthiest self, this food is not the best choice for me. Well, in turn, this food might be a better choice. That's okay. I think personally, right? Just being able to be like, okay, eating this salad is a better choice than eating, 4 pounds of fries and a burger for dinner, right? Like being able to do that. But if you put the more on it, where if you eat this, you are then a bad person and it makes you a failure, that's where it can be really dangerous. And that's where I would say you have to be careful. Again, not necessarily saying I disagree with it, but just sharing a different perspective.
In 2020, she explains the concept of flexible dieting. So basically, this is the idea that you can calculate your caloric needs and eat within those guidelines. Now, I want to flag that I'm not a fan of strict calorie counting for everyone, partially because I think it's a flawed science where, one, online calculators really can't do your unique metabolic needs justice, and two, food manufacturers can also be legally off by 20% on their calorie counts.
Yeah, that's true. It's freaking crazy.
What I do like about this idea of flexible dieting is that it discourages cutting out whole foods or food groups, and it doesn't encourage any other bogus, non-evidence-based rules and restrictions.
So I think like a big part of when it comes to like if you want to track, right, if you want to do if it fits your macros or just track your calories in general, that's why I believe it's a good idea to have not just have a strict number. It's like I can only eat 1,500 calories. That's it. Well, instead, if you have a like a buffer from like I can eat 1,200 to 1,700 calories, right? And it just depends on how hungry you're feeling that day. If you're really hungry, you allow yourself to have more. If you're not as hungry, you don't have to eat as much. But just understand that you are never actually eating exactly the amount that you probably think you are. Because again, like 0-calorie things aren't actually 0 calories. Like there are always going to be caveats to what you're eating and what you're tracking. It's never going to be perfect. Like you can get close, and I'm not saying you can't do it. I lost a lot of weight tracking. It's not impossible by any means. But just understand it is not an exact like number. Like you're not hitting the exact number that you might think in your head. So being okay with having that little bit of flexibility is important.
So for example, here's what Lena suggests are her guidelines for flexible dieting that I can definitely get behind.
What I tell my clients is to eat a minimum of 3 to 4 servings of veggies per day, 2 to 3 servings of fruit per day, and also to make sure that they're drinking enough water and they're eating enough fiber.
The whistle sound in the background. Oh, that's some old school YouTube stuff.
Yes, weight loss or not, all of these suggestions are great evidence-based gentle nutrition recommendations and do not seem punishing at all. So even if you don't want to track calories and just want to focus on some of these strategies right here, you will absolutely see benefits to your health. And as for weight loss, obviously if you decide to add 3 servings of fruit or veg to your diet and change nothing else, it's not going to help you lose weight. But this is where that intuition piece comes in. If you are adding 3 servings of fruits and veggies, you'll likely feel more satiated due to their high fiber content, which will likely result in edging out some of those higher calorie, highly processed foods.
Okay, so in layman's terms, if you are eating low calorie, high volume foods and eating a lot of them, a lot of fruits and veggies, right? You are more likely going to be full and not be relying or overindulging on lower volume, higher calorie dense foods, okay? So that's why it's usually good advice to eat fruits and vegetables. That's why when people say don't eat fruit, I'm like, what? Usually that's a good thing, right? And it's about adding this to your diet instead of taking things away. So you add these things to your diet and you're full off of those things, you're most likely not going to eat XYZ thing that's going to be more calorically dense.
And I think, yes, weight loss does come down to calories, even if counting calories or manipulating them is, as I've said, a bit of a flawed science. And if you want to better understand the nuances of calories and why it's not quite as simple as just eat less, you can watch my video on metabolic damage here. But I like that her unique approach to flexible dieting is also grounded in some of the principles of intuitive eating. Let's take a look.
One of the huge reasons why I think flexible dieting is the best diet for weight loss is because there's an end. In my opinion, there's an end goal. One of the main reasons that I think flexible dieting is so great is that it teaches you so much about food. When you do flexible dieting for an extended period of time, you gain this really deep understanding of how food plays a role in your life. You learn about how certain foods make you feel. You learn about how much of a certain food you really need to eat to feel satisfied or to get the fuel in that you need for that day or your workout or whatever it is. Because when you're tracking your food, you're paying attention to it. And the appeal with a lot of other diets is that you don't really have to pay attention to that stuff. You just know what you can and can't eat and you go for it. But I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not learning about the food that you're eating.
I don't disagree.
I don't know anything that she said. I was just jamming out to the music. I'm sorry.
I mean, one of my professional criticisms of flexible dieting is that people sometimes use it to justify eating a lot of kind of low nutrition foods with the argument that it's okay because it fits their macros. That's not untrue from an energy balance standpoint. But as Lena often points out, doing this won't actually make you feel very good. And the goal of healthful eating should be to feel healthy and satisfied and sustain these behaviors long term. Again, I don't think everyone needs to count calories to get to this place of understanding how foods make you feel. But if having that data is helpful for you in this process and not triggering, great. I mean, you do you. Use that tool.
So I was just joking. I was listening. Yeah, I agree. I think this is something that I've said so much about, like tracking your macros, tracking your calories, tracking your food. The reason I think that it truly is an invaluable tool for a really large amount of people is because it really does help you understand things, understand the food that you're eating, understand the calories that are in the certain things that you like to eat. Like those things, like learning how to track and understanding how it works gives you invaluable information that I think is so important, especially if you're someone like me, someone like probably a lot of you guys that are coming from a place of just overeating all the time and not really understanding how many calories are in the types of food that you're eating. That's why I really get frustrated when people demonize tracking, and like there's been a quite a big movement where it's like any type of tracking at all is like an eating disorder. People think you have an eating disorder, and that's so frustrating to me because I just disagree.
All right, moving on to another Jordan. Let's talk about fitness creator Jordan Syed.
This is one of my good friends as well. It's kind of funny. I feel like I know everyone in this video.
Now, in his video, How to Lose Weight Without Counting Calories, he talks about the typical cycle of restrictive dieting, getting initial results, hitting a plateau, and then quitting. His advice is that successful programs need to be sustained for at least 6 months to a year before we see long-term meaningful habits emerge. I also love that he points out how any diet can result in weight loss, whether that's low carb or high carb, keto, Atkins, paleo, etc. So,
one second, my dad's calling me. Hello? I am currently streaming right now. Is everything okay? I'm streaming. Yeah, is everything okay? You're feeling fine, everything's good? Do you want to tell the stream? You know, I can put you on speaker. Okay, fine. Okay, well, I'm glad. Are you down here right now? Oh, I thought I heard Evelyn's voice. I know. Well, good. And then so Davita said that you guys have a double. Is that basically the same thing as a full? Because I'm trying to find mattresses and I'm not seeing the set like double. It's the same as full. Okay, so I'm gonna look into those later. All right. Well, I'm glad that you're doing better. Yeah, I'm sure you are. You're used to always working. No, you're crazy. Yeah, it's true. You should just go chop wood or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably not a good idea. All right. Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better, Dad. I love you. I appreciate it. All right. Bye. All right. I'm sure you guys heard that. He's doing all good. I want to get him a new bed, so I was trying to figure out what size bed he has because he's had the same bed for like freaking 30 years. Onward.
let's take a look.
What can you do, not for a week, not for 14 days, not for 21 days, not 30 days, what can you do for a year, 2 years, 5 years, your whole life? That is the defining factor.
Freaking dude. That is, if that's not the one thing I've said the most, I don't know what is. How long you can do it. If there is an end goal to your diet, I'm not saying it's impossible, it's the worst thing ever, but that is a red flag that you should be worried about. Okay? I'm not saying that it's the end of the world, but like, we just understand you need to be a little bit careful there.
I 100% agree. I always say that the healthiest diet is the one that you can actually sustain for life. Everything else is just a miserable and futile exercise, and quite frankly, a waste of precious time. He also talks about the ultimate goal in making these behaviors part of your life. So let's take a look.
And the ultimate level of advanced dieting, advanced nutrition, advanced fitness, the ultimate highest level is where you don't have to think about it.
So I know that that can sound completely unattainable for a lot of people watching right now. And it may be, depending on what kind of weight you're trying to hold yourself to, or whether or not that is kind of a healthy, happy weight for you. But ultimately, yes, the goal should be to live your life without constant intrusive thoughts about your weight and food. I've said it many times, having an overwhelming desire to lose weight is 100% valid and normal. But it's a long game to health and happiness. And also, it's a bit of a balance. If we go at this too hard, too fast, we set ourselves up for a binge or burnout.
So this is all true. I think that it's definitely daunting to feel like, will there ever be a time where I feel like this is not what's consuming my mind constantly, right? I understand that. But please understand, it is so possible, because I was that person, right? I used to track every ounce of every gram of everything that I put into my body, okay? And that, I'm not hating on that. That was a useful tool, okay? That helped me understand. But now I get questions all the time. Oh, are you bulking? Are you cutting? Are you doing this? How much are you eating? How many I'm like, I don't know. Like right now I'm just living. I'm not trying to get bigger. I'm not trying to get smaller. I'm trying to get better at a few things in the gym, and that's what drives me, right? I'm not trying to eat a certain amount of calories. I eat what I feel like is necessary. If I was losing a lot of weight and I'm like, oh, I should probably eat more, then I would eat more. It's not something that I'm constantly thinking about day in and day out. But I understand it doesn't just happen. It's not a flip that switches and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. I was yesterday, I was thinking about food all the time, and now today I'm totally cool. No, it takes time. It takes time.
And that typically results in weight regain or even a weight that is greater than where you started. I also find that his approach to doing a mini cut for fat loss, which is generally a pretty aggressive protocol, is a lot more moderate than the norm. So let's take a look.
A lot of people say because it's a very brief period of time, it allows you to be more strict. And that's not wrong. That is one way to structure a mini cut, and it can work very well depending on your goals. For me personally, based on the content that I put out, based on the type of health and lifestyle I want people to live, I'm usually not trying to put out content that is outrageously strict and rigid, because that doesn't really jibe with my way of approaching life and fitness overall.
I have to say that while if for whatever reason fat loss was my goal, and it's not, this would totally be my approach too. So for Jordan, his mini cut meant trying to lose around 10 pounds over the course of 10 weeks. That is a surprisingly reasonable time frame for those kinds of results. As for Jordan's method, he brings it back to basics for people who don't want to count calories and focuses instead on a more approachable and simplified plate method. So let's take a look.
3 plates, 2 snacks method of fat loss. This is my go-to method of fat loss that I use if someone does not want to count their calories, because it's a very simple way of moderating your overall portion control.
Okay, so this is not unlike the gentle nutrition tips that I give in all of my videos that you see me review, where I'm talking about building generally balanced plates. Jordan's recommending that each plate contain some satiating protein and high fiber veg, and to build snacks about the size of your palm. So for example, an apple or a cup of Greek yogurt. He also leaves room for fun foods that he loves, like peanut M&Ms, but again, he's sticking to his general rule of thumb of snacks being the size of his palm.
I think that this is important that they brought that she brings this up, and that Jordan's great. If you guys don't follow him, I highly recommend. He's great content. But I think that this is really important, because a lot of people feel like they have to track, or they feel like they have to, know what calories they're eating, when it necessarily, especially if you're a bigger person, that's not necessary. Like I lost my first, 60, 100, I don't remember exactly how much weight it was, without tracking anything, because I don't like tracking. I didn't like it when I was doing it, but it really helped me. But like numbers and stuff for me it's so frustrating, and it just takes up so much mental space for me. I don't like doing it, right? So this is what I've talked a lot about, the common sense diet that I did when I first started losing weight, and it kind of falls into this stuff, right? Cutting out liquid calories, cutting out junk food, cutting out fast food, things that regardless of how much information you know about fitness and about nutrition, like that you probably shouldn't be eating this stuff if you're trying to lose weight. And that's what I did, and that's how I lost a good amount of my weight. So now this might not work for you if you're trying to lose 10 pounds, right? And you have to be really, like, you need to be on point. But if you're losing 150 pounds, 200 pounds, like, you can lose a big chunk of that first weight without feeling like you have to track, especially if you feel like it's going to be daunting. And then once you lose weight and you're motivated, you're seeing results, and you start wanting to, like, actually understand a little bit more, I highly recommend transitioning at some point into tracking your calories, just so you're aware and you get that knowledge that you wouldn't have if you're just kind of, eating quote unquote healthily.
I think that this is a totally reasonable approach to eating that allows space for your favorite foods while not letting them edge out more nutrient-dense snacks and meals. A handful of M&Ms in the context of a diet with lots of fruits and veg is really not a big deal, especially if it helps you enjoy your life and maintain your health-promoting routine in the long term. Now, in terms of training, Jordan is not about just burning as many calories as possible. He is all about building metabolic health through resistance training. And the evidence suggests that this actually is a really smart approach to take for long-term body composition and weight loss.
So basically what she's saying here is lift weights as well, don't just do cardio.
While cardio may burn more calories in the moment, resistance training boosts resting metabolic rate for hours after a training session, and it increases metabolism in the long run. I also appreciate that he approaches exercise in a sustainable, approachable way. Let's take a look.
But if you want to make this not just for fat loss, but for overall health, if you want to improve your health and your lifestyle, improve your mobility, improve your endurance, improve your cardio, improve your health, getting in daily steps is super important. It's just something I think everyone should have in their routine every single day.
So I think that this is really great, accessible advice. Walking, or even just incorporating more movement into your day, makes fitting in activity more realistic. It doesn't need to be a hardcore 6-day-a-week CrossFit regime to be beneficial. So in general, I think that it's really refreshing to hear from a successful fitness competitor and coach that strategies to work towards weight loss and fat loss can be flexible and can fit into your existing life.
I'm not going to harp on this too much because I say it all the time, but walking is so underrated. Highly recommend. If you're not tracking your steps, start tracking them. And if you're trying to lose weight, upping them a little bit, it's freaking awesome.
Finally, the last creator I'm pulling advice from today is probably going to turn some heads, mainly because my critique of his videos maybe was not super flattering. However, as I mentioned in that video, I do think that Greg Doucette knows his stuff. In his video,
oh snap,
do these every day to help lose weight and keep it off permanently, he prefaces his list by suggesting that success is not dependent on you doing all the things, but even just incorporating a few can play a role in meeting your goals. Yes, yes, yes to not taking on too much too fast. That
don't go from 0 to 100,
is, in my experience, the fastest, most reliable road to throwing in the towel and seesawing all the way back to unhealthy behaviors. An all or nothing approach is, in my opinion, just not compatible with long-term success. So he suggests things like eating more fruits and veggies, lifting weights to build metabolically active muscle mass, drinking more water, eating regular meals and snacks, getting in satiating protein, and avoiding overtraining. All of these are, in my professional opinion, solid evidence-based examples of gentle nutrition. In another video called Top 10 Things to Avoid When Trying to Lose Weight, Greg goes on a rant about why you should not skip meals. And I gotta say, I am so here for it. Let's take a look.
Fasting and skipping meals. Don't be like, oh, I have to lose weight, so I know what I'll do. I'll skip breakfast and lunch, and I'll only eat at supper time. I'm only gonna eat before bed. I'm only gonna eat in the morning and at night. Or I'll just skip this meal because then I can eat more calories later. No, it doesn't work like that. If you skip meals, your body goes into like starvation mode and it sends signals you're extra hungry. And then you end up binging and cheating, and then you overconsume food at night. You eventually cave, crack down, and overconsume more calories than if you had actually stuck to the plan.
Man, the intermittent fasting people are livid right now. I can hear them.
Yep. That, again, is why I always say one of the best predictors of a binge is restriction. Let's see what else he has to say.
Big one, huge one. Do not lose weight too fast. So many people, they'll start a diet and they'll lose like 25 pounds the first month. Yeah, it's motivating because you see the scale weight dropping so quick and you think you're doing amazing. You're losing muscle. Muscle burns calories. Muscle makes your metabolism higher.
Yep.
Okay, so I was just joking. So with intermittent fasting, like there's not anything, I'm not going to say you can't do it. You certainly can, and it works for people. But like what they're saying here, and I tend to agree with this, is a lot of people, especially with intermittent fasting, they will go into intermittent fasting thinking that they just want to be able to push their meals back so they can have a bigger meal. Now, where this can be dangerous is that if it ends up being, I'm just pushing meals back because I want to have a really large meal, it gets really close to almost binging and restriction, and like it's a very, you're flirting with fire, right? You're playing with fire there. And I'm not saying you can't do it. Like I personally, I'm not someone that eats breakfast, right? I don't eat my first meal until like 11 or 12 after I've already worked out. So I'm not saying like you have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and have snacks in between and only eat every 3 hours. But I'm just saying, be aware of, why am I doing this? Why am I pushing back these meals? What is the reason for it? Is there a good reason for it? For me, I feel like there is. I eat late at night. When I wake up in the morning, I'm not hungry. It's easier just to work out and then eat afterwards, right? Is there a reason for it, or are you just trying to push calories back so you can have as much at night or as much at one period of time as possible? And understand, like, think about, is it working for me, right? Am I pushing these calories back and then I'm just eating the allotted amount of calories that I have told myself that I want to have? Or am I pushing these calories back and then, oh snap, I am overeating because I'm so hungry, and I'm telling myself, oh, it's totally fine, you can have this calorie, you can have that, you can have these, you can have those, because you haven't even eaten all day, right? Which a lot of people fall down that rabbit hole, and then again, if your goal is to lose weight, that's probably not going to happen, right?
Pretty much. And this, my friends, is why I say crash diets do not work. Let's see what else.
Eating too strict. Cutting out food groups and stuff, going keto, saying, oh, I can only eat chicken, rice, and broccoli, chicken, tilapia, and some fish, and cutting out all sweets, all junk, all yummy, delicious foods in your whole life. That doesn't work long term. It might work short term. If you have extreme discipline, you might be able to follow that diet for a little while. I could probably do it, but I'm very motivated to reach my goals.
And humble.
Even I wouldn't want to do it long term. Why do that when you can have balance? Balance is not all or nothing. Balance is eating healthy but still having some foods you like.
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying Greg and I may have different ideas about what constitutes fun foods and balance. So while egg white French toast and anabolic ice cream and popcorn may be fun for Greg, for others, they may just be kind of like healthified versions of junk food. Still tasty and fun, but potentially not a full replacement for moderate portions of the real deal. What I do 100% agree with is the sentiment that if you are bored as eating the same bland chicken and sweet potato meal prep dinner, you are not going to keep it up. Again, Greg obviously loves popcorn and his anabolic ice cream and things like that. So if having these foods in his diet every day makes it sustainable and enjoyable for him to still meet his nutritional goals, amazing.
And I think so. One of the biggest criticisms I know people have had with Abbey when she did that video on Greg is like, now obviously he eats that way and it works for him, but like the people that follow Greg and the people that have like obviously found value in his content have found value also in the meals that he's made, and like they help them. They might not be eating the only meals from Greg's cookbook 24/7 every meal, but it's like if you're replacing one thing with something from his cookbook that has helped you. Because it's like a lower calorie thing, but like, you know, the French toast, for instance, or whatever, like it's lower calorie, it's higher protein, and you're able to eat this food that tastes really good and it helps you stay on a diet. That's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, right? Is it the same as eating maybe French toast from like an acclaimed French restaurant? I guess not. But like you're not going to be having that every single day, right? Are you having like you're going to be able to incorporate these meals from Greg, not even just from Greg, but like meals from people that make like low calorie cheat meal foods, right? Like you can incorporate that into your diet and you can feel like you're having these quote unquote fun foods really often and you're not feeling like you're missing out, which can be very helpful for people.
But I also want to clarify that getting out of that all or nothing mentality can also take the form of the flexible and varied approach that other YouTubers were suggesting. You know, different people will respond to different levels of flexibility and routine. That is totally a personal thing. I think the take-home message here is that you don't have to take on a punishing regime that has you avoiding all the foods that you enjoy in favor of foods that you kind of hate. Obviously, there are some things that Greg suggests that I don't necessarily side with, and sometimes the things that he does himself are different than what he suggests others do. But I do get why that is, since he himself says that he's got very specific fitness goals and he's a lot more disciplined and motivated than he acknowledges most people to be. Very true. So of course, a big reminder that even when an influencer knows what they're talking about, Greg or myself included, what they do themselves may not be beneficial to you in your health journey.
Amen. That's why whenever I do a full day of eating, I make like 14 disclaimers and be like, yo, it's what I'm eating, not telling you to eat this. Please understand.
So folks, to sum it up, you are probably seeing some general trends in the information that I've chosen to highlight in this super top level summary here. So to recap, here are my thoughts. It's my opinion that you will not sustain any weight loss diet or lifestyle that encourages severe physical restriction, a feeling of emotional scarcity or deprivation, demonizing foods or food groups, or barriers for you to enjoy your damn life. Sure, you might lose some weight, but you will gain it right back when you drop that restrictive diet and start eating normally again. And actually, we know that this weight cycling pattern is arguably more dangerous from a metabolic perspective than just never losing the weight in the first place. So in order to have a shot at changing your behaviors and your eating patterns in the long run with the potential outcome of weight loss, we really need to bring it back to basics. So that means number one,
Keep it simple, you know what I'm saying?
adding more fruits and veggies to your diet. Fruits and veggies are rich in satiating fiber, energizing carbs, and are naturally lower in calories. This does not, however, mean subsisting off of fruit and veggies alone to reach your weight loss goals to the point where it's displacing other healthy foods. And that brings me to my next point, number 2, eating adequate sources of lean protein and healthy fats, both of which are important for satiety and overall nutrition, and the former for maintaining metabolically active muscle mass. Number 3, including movement in your day that's enjoyable and sustainable, including some resistance training, which will help to build muscle mass and support your metabolism.
Yes. Get that muscle, baby.
It does not need to be an extreme gym session to count, but try to be as active as you can without encroaching on other enjoyable parts of your life. So as a general rule of thumb, anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes of movement a day, doing something that makes you feel good can have both physical and mental benefits.
So I see someone in chat say, I just feel like the phrase joyful movement is weird. I understand that, but I think like it is important to find something that you enjoy doing, right? Like, you might not enjoy it every single day. There might be some days where it's like, oh man, it's really like, I'm not feeling super motivated to get on the bike or whatever. But like, if for the most part you find something that you actually enjoy doing, say it's CrossFit, bodybuilding, going on runs or whatever, that for the most part you enjoy doing, the chances of you sticking to that are much, much higher than they would be if you're like, I hate this thing always. I never want to do it. I only do it because it's going to help me lose weight. The chances of you sticking to that are much lower.
Number 4, avoiding extreme behaviors like completely restricting foods or food groups that you love, eating too little, exercising too much, skipping meals when you're hungry, etc. Remember that both physical deprivation and emotional scarcity can both set you up for a binge. Number 5, think moderate deficit, not denial. On a very primitive mathematical level, yes, losing weight requires that you burn more calories than you consume. Period. Is it that simple? No, not at all, because there are a lot of compensatory mechanisms at play that can make this A minus B equation not always perfectly equal C. However, whether you choose to count calories, manage portion sizes, or aim to eat more lower calorie, higher fiber, voluminous fruits and veggies to kind of edge out some of those higher calorie snacks, find a way to make small changes to your overall intake without triggering a sense of deprivation. Once we cross that line with extreme cleanses or fasts or cutting out whole food groups that we love, the trust is broken and the diet generally fails. Ultimately, you want to make the diet fit the person, not fit the person to the diet. So be gentle with yourself, honor your needs, and make it work for you in a way that is sustainable and doesn't make you feel deprived.
I mean, I agree with all that. I know I'm not talking very much, but there's not much to say there.
And finally, consider the holistic picture. Yes, nutrition is arguably the most important piece in the weight loss puzzle, exercise being second, but these things do not happen in a vacuum. And when I worked clinically, we used to always say that it is never just about the food. There are so many other external factors that are at play that can influence our ability to reach our weight loss goals, whether that's genetics, food security, income, our physical environment, stress, anxiety, etc. So focus on the things that you can control with the resources that you do have, and also make sure to take care of the things that go beyond just physical activity and nutrition. So things like taking care of your emotional health, getting enough sleep, managing stress, and addressing emotional eating triggers. Unfortunately, there is nothing sensationalized or sexy about this. This is all just basic nutrition 101. And it just takes a little education, a lot of practice, and your own innate intuition to truly get it.
Yeah, I love that she brought up like other factors that go into, weight loss or weight gain. It's, yes, if you want to look at it just, it's calories in versus calories out. Yes, I guess, but there's a lot more that goes into that. Like, there's so much more that goes into what kind of food you're eating, why you're eating what you're eating, all of these things. That's not just how many calories did you eat? Okay, stop doing that. Like, it's much more complicated than that. But at the same time, like, just because it's more complicated, it doesn't change what you can do. What you can do is control what food you're putting into your mouth, or maybe it's not what, but how much. Like, there are things that you can control. So it makes sense to focus on those instead of focusing on the things that you can't control and getting upset because you can't control this thing, but this person doesn't struggle with it. It doesn't matter. Like, if you can't control it, why would you waste your energy and waste your time focusing on it?
So shout out to the weight loss creators that I highlighted today for sifting through some of the noise. A reminder that I may not agree with everything, and that means I still want all of you to approach each of these channels with a critical lens. Ultimately, not every message is going to be supportive to every person and their relationship with food and their body. But my goal here was to highlight through other YouTubers what I perceive to be the most likely information to inspire long-term change. So that is all today. Thanks again to Built Bar for sponsoring this video. Let me know in the comments if you liked it and you want to see more videos like this. If you did, of course, subscribe to the channel, give it the thumbs up, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen.
So, all in all, I thought that was a very interesting video. I'm glad that she liked everything that I had to say. I think that pretty much everything. Obviously, she chose things that she agreed with. She didn't want to make this video really a negative one, which is, you know, totally her choice. But all in all, I thought that it was interesting, and I thought the stuff that she brought up, again, like she said, nutrition 101, but it's still good to, you know, hear it over and over again, because there's always going to be newer people that might not know this stuff. But solid video. I'm glad that we were able to catch it.